What is the purpose of an MR schedule and why should you care? That's today's episode of SaaS Metrics School. Hope you're doing well. So, the coveted MR schedule, all roads lead back to the MR schedule. So, first, what is an MR schedule? Why should you care? And you should care a ton about your MR schedule. So, an MR schedule is revenue by customer by month. Now, I heard this on a recent podcast. Someone called it RBC, so revenue by customer. So, this is a schedule that we need to feed our MRR waterfall and to calculate our retention metrics. So at its most basic level, it's revenue by customer. So think of the column A and then customers going down column A, and across the top from left to right is the period. And then we have the MRR per month per customer in that schedule. And this is a very important schedule because we can run this by product line, by segment, by geo, by ICP. We can slice and dice this different ways, especially we have a ton of users and customers. So that's our MRR schedule. So what we take with this data, what we do is then create an MRR waterfall. Now, some people call this a roll forward, a snowball, but this is a schedule that then shows your beginning MRR balance, then the new MRR that you added, expansion MRR that you added, contraction, churn, and then your ending balance, and then it starts again. Hence kind of that waterfall or snowball effect. So with that schedule, we can then calculate customer retention, gross revenue retention, and net revenue retention. So this is so important. Of course, these are valuable metrics within our SaaS company that we must know as operators. And in due diligence, it is a must have. They are going to request this in due diligence, guaranteed. So we don't want to be creating our MRR schedule for the first time when it's requested in due diligence, whether that's a fundraise or an exit. So we have to have this prepped well in advance, at least 6 months, 12 months of just getting comfortable with this data, make sure it is spot on. So where do you source this data? Now, if you don't have a subscription management system or a RevRec solution, we're going to source this from our invoice data. So if you invoice in terms, periods longer than a month, we're then going to have to apply some RevRec to that to smooth that revenue from the start to the end date of that subscription. Now, if you invoice monthly, you post it in the correct period, usually we can just take those invoices and that's going to create our MRR schedule. No RevRec applied there to create that MRR schedule. But if you invoice in terms longer than a month, say an annual, then we're going to have to do some RevRec magic. So it starts with that invoice data. Then we have to see, do we have to apply any sort of revenue recognition to this invoice data to create that smooth MRR schedule? Now, if you have a subscription management system set up where it is calculating your revenue recognition, perfect. We're going to export it out of that. And away we go calculating retention. So it shortcuts a lot of steps, assuming it's set up correctly. So again, the MRR schedule, treat this like gold. You should have this in place early on because data can get messy, systems can get messy, and then it can be very hard to go back. Once you've got, say, hundreds of users, it's really hard, especially over 1,000 customers or users, to go back and fix that data manually will be just a pain. So we want to get this set up correctly from the start. So your MRR schedule, that's one of my 4 key SaaS finance data sources that I use when I do fractional CFO work for SaaS for my SaaS clients. We put this in place, and I also teach this in my SaaS Metrics Foundation course at thesaasacademy.com. This is a key pillar to that framework. So hope you enjoyed today's episode about your MRR schedule.